All right, let's head to Black Friday. Good on you, Jeff Bezos, getting that Black Friday game in there for people to have to log on to your website on Black Friday and taking a football game in which I'm sure there's no chance we're going to get ads or anything. Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. This is 10 now in favor of the Dolphins. 41 to 41 and a half is your total. Adam, when we take a look at this one, this was sitting 7.5, and then it got announced Tim Boyle, and for whatever reason ran to 10. Is there a difference between Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle? Probably. Is it 2.5 points? Absolutely not. Like you're going from the worst quarterback in the NFL to what? The worst quarterback in the NFL? I mean, like, who cares? Like, what is it? Seriously, like, how much worse could it possibly be? But the market says it's way worse. And so here we are at double digits now in favor of the Dolphins against the Jets. I was doing a program with Steven a little bit earlier where we were talking Survivor, and I'm curious as to your thoughts here, where I was holding on to the hope. I'm not going to say the hope. I was holding on to the fact that this defense was good. And so I kept kind of power rating them in that like upper 20s, which is still bad, but I'm saying, hey, look, this defense is always going to keep them in games. And so I can't put them below team X, Y, or Z. They plummeted this week for me because I've seen enough, right? It got to the point where it doesn't matter how good the defense is. If you cannot score, it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, like, at least these other teams outside of the Panthers and the Giants, like, they can at least score. We think that they're horrible still, but like, they can at least score the football. I can't hold on to the fact that the defense is good anymore. I don't care. They cannot score 14 points in a game, and so that they can't win football games. They can't do that. So they went down. I have the Jets down as like the fourth worst team in the NFL at this point.
I can't make the move that big on the Jets just because I've seen the defense good more than I've seen them bad. However, that absolutely was the point at which you can no longer look at the Jets as a middle-of-the-pack team just by default, right? You saw an offense in Buffalo that had been struggling mightily to convert yards into points. Not to move the ball, Ken Dorsey. They moved the ball just fine when they had their last offensive coordinator, but they weren't turning it into points, and they did last week against this Jets defense. So, you look now, and now the Jets on a short week have to take on a Miami team that I'm kind of surprised the market stayed with them the way that it did, and I'm actually saying that in a good way, that I think the market is smart in that last week the Miami Dolphins put up 6+ yards per play. They had a bad game out of Tua, and they still win by 7 points. And I understand the Raiders are bad, but this Raiders team also beat the Jets. And so I can't look at this and have any inclination toward Jets. My inclination in this game is actually toward under. And I think you realistically could get 30-3, 30-7, 31-8, right? I don't see how the Jets are doing their part in any way. Also, because the Miami defense is finally starting to look like the unit that we hoped it would, and it coincides with Jalen Ramsey coming back and them having a little bit of time to put things together, right? Jalen Ramsey's been great a couple weeks in a row. They did a good job against Kansas City after getting kind of shell-shocked early in the game, and they did a good job against the Raiders last week. And if the Miami defense is able to show up at all in this game, then I do think you've got a situation where the under is in play. Now, another thing that I want to mention about it here, and I'm sure you guys will get to this too, when we look at Offensive Player of the Year for Tyreek Hill and or what is now a longer shot for Tua on MVP, the next 4 weeks are going to create quite the situation here, because you've got Jets twice, Washington, and Tennessee for Miami. You could see some pretty significant movement on any odds having to do with Miami offensive futures based on our handicap at this game against the Jets and what Washington and Tennessee are.
That's a good call as well to keep an eye out for that. I mean, Steven, we look here. I'm glad Adam brought it up, and I was trying to not steal anyone's thunder, and I'm glad I didn't, because I do have an under 41.5 in my account in this one, and it was mainly for the exact same reason as what Adam just pointed out. I can this has 27 6 or whatever, 30, 31, 6, like written all over it to me.
27-13 cashes for us too.
Yeah,
Even if Boyle somehow gets a touchdown.
Yeah. So like I have the under 41.5 in the account already. So glad he brought that up, and glad I didn't mention at the top of the Steelers Thunder. So there we go. What are you looking at in this one?
Show bet. I also have under 40.5. I bet it too early. I'm confused why we got over money in this game, but yeah, I'm at under 40.5 in this one. So we're aligned on that. So I'll just take the remainder of my time because I did a little investigation this week after I was also just as surprised as you, Matt, when the line moved as much as it did, going from Zach Wilson to Tim Boyle, because that tells us that a lot of respected money thinks Tim Boyle is somehow worse than Zach Wilson. And, the research I did came up with the conclusion that I honestly don't have any idea how Tim Boyle is in the NFL at this point, because coming out of college, this has got to be the worst statistical profile of a quarterback to make an NFL roster I have ever seen. At UConn, he only threw a total of 275 passes in his entire college career. He completed 48% of them, had one passing touchdown, and 13 interceptions. So I don't know why he got signed as an undrafted free agent, but he did. I guess maybe because he's 6'4", 232 pounds. He got to be Aaron Rodgers' backup for a few years. But if we also look at what he's done in the NFL, the only real sample size we have was from 2021 when he was with the Lions, and among quarterbacks that played at least 90 plays, 36th out of 47 quarterbacks by EPA, 41st by success rate, 37th by CPOE. And this is the punchline here. 7.5% interception rate in his career. For context, the year Jameis Winston threw 30 interceptions, he had a 4.8 interception rate. So that if you're wondering why the market moves so much, even though Zach Wilson's been benched for Tim Boyle, I'm guessing at least some of those reasons I just said were why, Matt. This is like the weirdest quarterback I've ever seen start in an NFL game, frankly.